so excited to talk. We have a lot to cover because I feel like it's been a few months since we spoke last, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot's happened in the world and in your life. And
Yes, it has. It most certainly has. There we got a little
so,
more.
yeah, perfect. Now I can see you.
Good.
Before we jump in, so I had a moment. I interviewed Laurel Harris, who's in Jagged Little Pill right now, or will be when Broadway opens again someday.
Great show. I saw that. Great show.
It's so good, right?
Isn't it good? Yeah.
I need to see it again because it packed such an emotional gut punch the first time that I
It's a
feel
lot.
like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot. So I feel like I really do want to see it again. But we went on at 7:00 and we could hear the cheers for the healthcare workers outside the window. And
Yeah.
so we paused the chat so she could take us to the window.
Yeah.
What's happening? Is that happening all over New York? What's happening
Yes.
in your neighborhood?
It is. It's happening here in Harlem as well. When I'm up on my roof, at 7:00, I hear the yells, the screams, the cheers. And I'm up there yelling and screaming, clapping and cheering as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the community rallies together
Yeah.
and leans on the arts in times like this, right?
Truly. If there's anybody out there who ever thought the arts weren't important, what are we all relying on? TV,
Yep.
film, music. These are healing things. I always tell actors that we are healers, especially those times when we feel like, what am I doing with my life? You're healing, by going through the process, by staying courageous and pursuing your dreams and your goals and sharing your talent. You are helping to heal the world.
And on my Spotify playlist, so for people joining us, I posted a link to Alton's music.
Yay!
I'm such a Disney nerd. So yeah, he's gonna get to
Yay!
and,
Disney My Way.
Yes, if you have not heard Disney My Way, when we get off this chat, take a listen. It will make you feel so good. All your Disney favorites, but Alton's interpretation, which I love. It's just feel good. And you have
Thank you.
Your first CD,
Yeah.
Basis, is now also available on
Yes, it
Apple
is.
and iTunes and Spotify. So
All written and co-produced by me. I wrote all of those songs.
there's a couple of songs in there, Waiting especially, that I kind of feel like might be an anthem for what we're going through right now.
Yeah, that one, and there's another one called Never Give Up.
Never give up.
Which is really, those lyrics mean a lot to me, of like, people try to, just never give up under any circumstances.
Well, and as we're navigating this pandemic,
yes,
we are losing so many wonderful people and so many wonderful artists.
Yeah.
And one of those artists was Terrence McNally, who we lost last week.
Yes.
You worked with him on Ragtime.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about working with him, working on that show, and truly the legacy he's left us?
Man, I mean, talk about a genius, a hero, a courageous hero. I mean, his early stuff, things that he wrote about the AIDS epidemic back in the day. So courageous and so intelligent, and wrote in a way that anybody could relate to it. You can be entertained but educated at the same time. I feel like the same thing was done with Ragtime. Where you got these three different communities, but you understand each of their points of view. We look at people sometimes, and of course we have judgments, but he wrote the show in a way that you can go, wow, I can identify with an immigrant, because we're all from someplace else. We all in some form came to this place, however we got here. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Terrence during Ragtime, but I got to spend a lot of time. I got to spend all morning and early afternoon with him when I did, I sang Make Them Hear You from Ragtime, the big song that Colehouse sings toward the end of the show. I just sing Make Them Hear You as an opening to the AIDS Walk a few years ago. And Terrence was there with his partner, Tom, And it was really cool. That was when I got to really sit and talk with him and kind of get to know him and be around him. And the other time I saw him, I was sort of intimidated because he's such a genius. You don't quite know what to say. But that morning, we were just kind of like chilling and talking. And he was just a really, really lovely human being.
And they were such a loving, beautiful couple.
Oh, man. Talk about love. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Tom, he produced so many shows. He's such
Mhm.
an amazing producer.
Yeah.
Produced the revival of Little Shop of Horrors, and he produced The Inheritance.
Which
and,
was, I saw it in The Inheritance twice.
yeah,
Yeah. Just incredible, incredible theater.
incredible.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of students who follow RDU on stage, and this is the real reason why I wanted to speak to you. Because
Hey, students. Hey, guys.
hello, I hope
Hello.
Sanderson High School is on here, because they've actually, those theater students were assigned episodes of the RDU on Stage podcast to listen to for enrichment, and one of the episodes was with you, my interview with you.
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to reconnect with you. But in your book, and you and I talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again, because I think it's important for students. So I'm actually going to open the book and read from it.
And I will show the cover while you do that.
Okay. So this is on page 17, chapter 2, right at the beginning.
Okay.
You have a quote from George Washington Carver in here. Life requires thorough preparation. Veneer isn't worth anything. We must disabuse ourselves of the idea that there is a shortcut to achievement. You do not believe in luck. So can you talk to me about the difference between luck and what I would call doggedness?
Luck expires. You know, whatever luck is. I don't really know how to even explain luck. So I've never really believed in it. But even if you're feeling lucky, like, man, things are going my way, you never know when they're going to stop going your way, because life is always going to be changing and shifting. So if you're relying on luck, then once the luck runs out, what are you left with? You're left with knowledge. You're left with what you know for sure. You're left with your training. You're left with the discipline that you have in any area. And you're at the mercy of it. You're hoping that it's going to keep going, as opposed to good old-fashioned hard work, know-how, experience, discipline, training, resilience. Very, very key things that we all need to see anything through. Any kind of commitment. So yeah, that's why I've never believed in luck. It's about preparedness, and something that I feel, you know, there's yin and yang to everything. This is a very challenging time for everyone. Everybody is being touched by this pandemic. But what we can do, what we can control, is our time. Time is the one thing that we will never, ever get back. So it's challenging as this time is. Most of us are stuck at home. You know, God bless the essential workers who are keeping us fed and keeping the mail coming, and the nurses and doctors. I mean, thank God for them. But for most of us, we get to be at home, and we get to choose what we're going to do with this time. And especially as artists, now's the time to really train, to work on your discipline. You know, it's like when you're in high school and your parents wake you up and say, you got to get up, you got to get dressed, you got to have something to eat, you got to go to school. And then you go to college, and suddenly there's nobody to make you get up. So you have to rely on the training that you've received from 0 to 18 or whatever. It's kind of a similar thing for us right now. What are you going to do with your day? Are you going to put yourself on a schedule? Are you going to get up and make sure that you train vocally? Are you going to watch something inspiring? Are you going to go for a walk? Of course, keeping your social distance. What are you going to do? The choice is yours. So now is the time to really work on your discipline, to work on those monologues, to work on that music that you didn't have time to work on before. Yes. Now is the time to use that.
Well, we all, in our everyday life, when the world is open, we all complain about how little time we have,
Yeah.
especially how little time we have at home.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another book I love, Eat, Pray, Love. I'm very selective about the books I read. I'm not a reader. So I read this one.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
I
Thank
read
you.
Eat, Pray, Love.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about stillness and silence really being the catalyst for her
Yeah.
creativity and her growth. And I
And
think
two things that we're all, most of us are very afraid of.
yes.
And now here it's being forced upon us, but it's such a gift. I feel like anything we're afraid of, it's like fear is like a wall. And we can spend so much of our time going, trying to avoid it, trying to pretend that this wall doesn't, that this wall doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But then life will push us to where, like, we've all been pushed to, like, really slow down and sit down and be with ourselves. And then once you get through the other side of the wall, you go, oh my God, there's a whole other world on the other side of it that's been waiting to be discovered, whole other parts of ourselves. That's the beauty. That's the yin and the yang of life.
Well, and in the book, I love the way the book is structured, because at the end of most of the chapters, you have food for thought and you have these kind of thought-provoking questions. And one of the questions you have towards the end of the book is, are you avoiding things in your life that you know you eventually have to confront? That's what we're talking about.
This is where we are. This is where we all are. Yeah. And most of us are, well, a lot of us are really by ourselves. Some of us have families, but a lot of us are spending time with ourselves. And it's such an incredible gift. Yeah, there are challenges in the world right now, but getting to know yourself, that's the real hero's journey, right? Getting to learn who you really are, what you're really made of, what you really like, what your passions really are, what your weaknesses are, because I think it's important to know what your strengths are, but it's equally as important to know what you need to work on.
And who you are today, because I think so many artists get stuck in who they think they are, or who they were a year ago, or who they were 5 years ago. And so,
or what's being projected onto them by other people, who they think they're supposed to be. Yeah.
So this is a good time to figure it out, do some self-reflection.
Absolutely.
The other thing I hear from students, and I really wanted to discuss today, and for those of you who want to know, I mean, Alton has had this amazing career. So if you want to hear the career stuff, listen to the podcast. I want to get the Mufasa isms today. Because that's what we all need right now. And you can go to his website. His website has his bio. I mean,
all this stuff is there.
Amazing career.
Thank you.
But one thing I'm hearing from students a lot is, I live in Raleigh, and that feels like a million miles away from New York, a million miles away from Broadway. How am I going to find my path to doing what I want to do there? No one grew up as far from the lights of Broadway as you did. So can you talk about your beginnings and how you really carved out this, I'm going to say, purposeful path for yourself?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Youngest of 7 kids, the only boy in the household, alcoholic father. Bless his heart. So he was a little distant and kind of in his own world. So I kind of felt like I was on my own. There was almost 6 years between myself and the next sibling. They were all sort of like 2 and 3 years apart. So they kind of grew up in a clump. And then there was me, the typical unplanned 60s child. And it was hard because I was shy. I was bullied. I went through all that kind of crazy stuff as a kid. But again, the yin and yang of life. The flip side is that I was forced to spend time alone. I didn't have a lot of friends as a kid, and I used my imagination. And watching TV and seeing people on TV who moved me, who inspired me, even before I had those words to describe it, helped. I would see this person go, wow, I like the way they speak. Oh wow, I don't know of any young Black boy who didn't want to be Michael Jackson growing up in the 60s. So looking at the Jackson 5 and other groups like that, the Motown groups, going, wow, it's possible. There's another way of living. There's another way of expressing yourself. So I clung to that. And I really believe, and looking back on it, I feel like it's build it and they will come. Build it in your mind, build it in your heart and your spirit, and things will appear. Signs will appear. People will appear to help you. And it's important to stay open. And this is something that I exercise today, staying open to the people who are trying to give me messages. You know, I believe for everything that we want, for all the desires that we have, there are matches out there in the universe waiting to match up with that. And so it's important to be prepared. It's important to be humble, and it's important to be open and faithful and disciplined so that you can see those signs and not be intimidated by them, not be frightened by them, but really going, wow, that moves me. And courage. Courage is a big thing. Having the courage to see that sign and then follow that sign. Because a lot of times those signs are like, they seem to be against the grain. They seem to be opposite of what other people's signs seem to be, but they're specifically for us, which getting back to this time, your meditation, really getting to know who you are without guilt or shame for what it is you may want or what you may want to be or what you may want to do with your life. Getting to the truth of who you are and how you feel opens the door to those messages and those signs that are going to point you toward that destiny, your destiny. So that's kind of what I did growing up. You know, the more I did it, the more I practiced it, the more I got used to it. Like, oh, wow, okay, I see that. I'm supposed to go this way. Everybody's going that way, but I'm supposed to go this way. And even sometimes, Lauren, you know, going, well, I'm going to ignore that because I want to be like everybody else. I want to blend in. And then going, wow, it seemed to work out for them, but mine crashed and burned. All right, let me get back on that track because this is specifically for me. The more you do that, the more it becomes a new healthy habit. And then, you know, that led to me getting out of Cincinnati, moving to Chicago, starting my theater career. As it started as a dancer, and then, you know, they found out I could sing, so I got moved into the singing department, understudying, and then getting my big break as a leading man, and then auditioning for Miss Saigon, the original company of Miss Saigon, while I was still living in Chicago, and getting the job. And then understudying one of my theater heroes, Hinton Battle. He won the Tony Award playing John. He went down to doing 6 shows a week. They gave me 2 after the first year he left, and they gave me the role. And it was all because I was prepared. Because and also being prepared helps you to not sabotage opportunities, helps you to not sabotage things that are trying to find you. So that's kind of what's, you know, one thing led to another, and here I am.
And here you are. And I love that you're talking about practicing discipline, because I think in what we're going through right now, what I'm hearing from folks as I do these interviews and what I'm hearing from our theater community here is that this period of time is either nurturing their creativity or it's hindering their creativity, and they're just kind of shutting down and they're sitting on the couch binging shows, which is fine, and eating ice cream, which is fine. And I've had those moments. I'm not gonna lie. We've all had those moments. But I think practicing positivity, practicing discipline, and this is work. This is not like you wake up in the morning and it comes naturally. That's something
it takes effort.
Preach. Yeah.
It takes a commitment. Yeah. But I want to say something about, you know, just backtrack a little bit. You know, some of us are laying on the couch eating ice cream. Some of us are shut down. Some of us are exhausted.
Yeah.
Some of us need to balance as artists. I mean, what's the question that we hate being asked as artists? So what's next? I mean, I remember coming out of the stage door from Lion King and people going, oh my, congratulations on the show. You were great as Mufasa. What's next? It's like, is this not enough? I'm on Broadway. But you feel that pressure as an artist to say something incredible like, well, I plan to win an Academy Award by this time next year. I mean, what are you going to say? So, and I always say, you know, when people ask, even when you're not working, that's really challenging. So what are you doing? So what's next for you? I now say, more work, more wonderful work. Well, people go ask for specifics. I go, well, you know what? You'll find out about it. As artists, we're always working. We're always preparing for something. We're always listening to music. We're always thinking about a song. We're always imagining that we're on stage, or what would I do if I do get that role? That's work. That takes mental time and mental space, mental energy. So some of us may need to lay across the couch and just chill right now. And listen to that. Okay, this, and not have any guilt about it. This is where I am today. And then, because sometimes the resistance, trying to pretend that we feel better than we actually do, takes more energy than anything. But just admitting, yes, I'm exhausted. In a perfect world, I'd be up on my feet, learning that new piece of music. But right now, I need to lay here with this ice cream and flick channels.
Yeah.
Be with that. It will eventually change. Once you break down the resistance and just let yourself be where you are, maybe that next day you wake up, okay, you know what? All right, today's the day to kind of go and find that music and start looking through. Because we don't like that feeling of obligation. You want to exercise your free will. And of course, there's a balance between, free will and laziness. And we know as individuals when we're being lazy, we know when we're afraid to admit that we're exhausted, and we know when, okay, I'm ready to get up and get back in the race.
And in your case, when you're flicking through the channels, you're hearing yourself voiceover documentaries.
Which was so cool. I was like, flicking channels, and I passed on the History Channel. I was like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. And I heard the voice. I was like, wait a minute, that's me. Which was a very, very cool experience.
Well, and what are those moments like? I mean, do you have those pinch me moments? Like,
oh man,
this is my life.
I get so full of gratitude of like, wow, I had the opportunity to do that. And these are things I fantasized about. And again, getting back to my younger years, letting my imagination roam. And dreams are free. Dreams don't cost you anything but time and courage to dream freely. And when I had that moment the other night and flicking channels and hearing myself narrate this documentary, I was just like, oh my God, I've always wondered what this would be like. And here it is. So I celebrated. I poured myself a glass of wine. I put my feet up on the table and said, let me just kind of take this in. This is one of those moments. Not just kind of go, oh yeah, it's me, but go, no, this is a moment. And I have a right to celebrate this. And by doing that, I feel will open the door to even more gratitude and more opportunities. I never ever want to take any opportunity for granted, past, present, or future.
And you mentioned Michael Jackson as being one of your heroes when you were growing up. So I have to give a little shout out to a new friend of mine who I just saw pop on here, Antoine L. Smith. He's going to be in the
Antoine.
Yeah, I interviewed him. He was coming here for he was in rehearsals for a production of Memphis here in North Carolina. He'll be coming back hopefully to do it in July. I think it's been postponed for July, but anyway, Antoine will be in the MJ musical, so that's pretty exciting, right?
Yes,
and
he's so talented.
Have a Michael Jackson musical.
Yeah, I'm looking very forward to seeing that.
Me too.
Hey, Antoine. What's up, dude?
So I hope he's still on here. I saw him pop on a little bit ago. So hey, Antoine, shout out. Can't wait to see Memphis. And I hope you come back to North Carolina too. We're going to make it happen, Alton, because I want to hear you sing. I want to talk a minute about your house.
Yes.
And your Antoine saying, hey, Alton.
Hey, dude.
One of my favorite quotes from Oprah is, she says, I believe your home should rise up to meet you. And you, through this time, you've posted some beautiful pictures of your home, your plants, your cooking. Who knew? Mufasa can cook. But you've named your beautiful home in New York City after an opera, and you've said that this is such a wonderful manifestation of years of hard work, focus, sacrifice, passion, and perseverance.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a little bit of the springboard to your new book,
Yeah.
which so can you talk to me, first of all, tell me the history of your house's name, because I think that's really cool. And then tell me about the new book.
Yes, Primonisha. It's the Scott Joplin opera. And Scott Joplin is really the inventor of ragtime. You know, other people got credit for discovering it, but he was the one who put those chords together and those patterns. And he wrote this opera that took him years to get produced. I mean, years and years and years. And I heard of Scott Joplin when I had the opportunity to play him at a show. And it just gave me it just opened my mind to so many different things. There were 3 people that I've had a chance to play that really changed my life. I got to play Jackie Robinson. And I understood that, you know, yeah, he wasn't just the first Black man. He wasn't just the person who integrated Major League Baseball. He also was prepared for it. He was UCLA's first 4-letter man. His family had moved him from all Black neighborhood to an all white neighborhood. So he was used to being taunted and called names and going against that and still excelling. So he was the perfect person. It was a combination of things that it took for him to be the first. Of course, playing Coal House was another one, because that was the seeing that movie, seeing Ragtime in high school is what inspired me to be an actor. So then to get to play Coal House was just like a dream come true. And the other one was playing Scott Joplin, when I saw, you know, how it was about determination. It took him years. He was an old man by the time he finally had this opera produced. And I've always had really, really wonderful home karma, apartment karma growing up. And then to have the chance to buy this house was beyond a dream come true. And I knew to name it after that opera because it just means a lot to me. It just, you know, I just wanted it to have that, such a grand name and the history behind it. This meant a lot to me, means a lot to me.
Well, and you've lived there a long time. It's not like you just moved in. So I'm not making.
It's been 20 years, yeah. No, it's been 20 years, which is, yeah. I posted that because February made 20 years since I've owned this home. And own a piece of New York City is just, talk about a blessing, talk about gratitude. Now, but in terms of the book, this is a book that I've wanted to write for a long time. I've always been interested in our relationships with money and the energy of money. And, you know, growing up in the projects, in public housing, and not having any money, you know, I was never given an allowance. We just couldn't afford it. We simply could not afford it. So I had to be creative. You know, I babysat. I worked at a factory in the summers. You know, I knew that if I wanted to get anything extra, I would have to find a way to get it, and to get it honestly. So then when I became a young man and started working in theater, I kind of took that poor man's mentality with me. So when I started making money, I didn't know what to do with it. It was, with some people, it burns a hole in their pocket because they don't have a relationship with it. For me, I just kind of stored it away and was almost afraid of it. Almost to the point of denying myself things that I deserved, going, okay, I'm working hard, I'm disciplined, I got all that stuff down, and I'm making money, but I don't know what to do with it. I'm afraid of it. And I realized at some point that I've got to get a grip on this because I don't want to sabotage my hard work, because this wasn't just handed to me. Blood, sweat, tears, all the things I've been talking about this afternoon, you know, discipline, sacrifice, delaying gratification, all those things. And to the point, you know, and then that's led me to being a homeowner. And I've always wanted to share that with other artists because, as I said before, we are working all the time. Every moment we're thinking about the next job or what I can do to better myself to prepare for the next opportunity. But we forget to reward ourselves. And there's one way of rewarding ourselves is like, okay, I made some money, so I'm going to go out and buy the most expensive thing I can as a status symbol to prove that I have worked hard. And that's one way. But what about saving? What about your future as an artist? that's something I don't think we really talk about. You know, as artists, we're willing to commit. We're going to go against the grain. We would do, whether we're on Broadway or doing a club act or doing a benefit, we would do what we love for free. So if we never put a value on it, we forget that it has any value at all. So these are the kind of things I want to discuss. I mean, most of us don't grow up, you know, sitting around the dinner table talking about finances. Most of us never have a talk about finance. We just kind of go out into the world and we're like, okay, I'm making money. But we were never taught what to do with it. We don't know what investing is. We don't know what stocks and bonds are. That's not realistic. I mean, I was thinking, like, how are we willing to sacrifice everything to share our gifts and talent, but we don't think about our future? Is it because we don't believe that we have a future to look forward to as artists? So these are things I kind of wanted to explore. I mean, I'm interviewing people about their relationships with money. I'm talking about my growth, my journey of, like, I mean, to me, when I reached one point where I was, okay, I would see a sweater I loved. I say a cashmere sweater. I would see a cashmere sweater I loved and go, oh my God, I deserve it. I work hard for it, and then I would buy it in every color. Mm. So I'd have like 10 cashmere sweaters sitting here, but then I go, well, okay, now I need the right occasion to wear them because these are special. So I was still kind of putting money on a pedestal and still kind of keeping it out of reach, even though I was kind of sort of being good to myself. I talk about my journey with finally going, wait a minute, I'm the prize, you know, the worth is here. And wealth is not only in money, wealth is in our relationships, it's in our friendships. Wealth is in the fact that we have talent at all. So I had to take my journey and reperceive all those things, which led to me finally. I remember at one point when I was making a lot of money and people were, you know, I had other actor friends that were going, you know, you seem to be so tight. Why don't you do this? You should be doing that. You're in this point in your career. You should be wearing there and shopping, wearing this and shopping there. And I remember trying those things and going, those things aren't me. I got to find out, what does luxury mean for me? You know, it may not be a Mercedes. It may not be spending my money on something that's going to depreciate immediately. What does luxury mean for Alton? We all get to define what that means for us as individuals. But again, responsibility comes with that, because it's so easy to let somebody tell you what it's supposed to be. Again, using this time that we all have, what does luxury mean for you?
And in this industry, you and I talked about in our very first interview, this is an industry that ebbs and flows in your career. You don't, you know, get a 9-to-5 job and then work that job for 20 years and then retire. You know, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Laurel last night, she and I were talking about, you know, she said, I know Tony Award winners that won their Tony and then didn't work for 2 years, or had to take a job in an ensemble.
Yep.
So you've been very, you've been a student of figuring out how to ride the wave using the resources that you have, preparing, planning. And so I'm so excited for this book, because I think, just like your first book is talking about mastering life's daily performance, it's not really a performing arts book. It's about life. And I think this book is going to be the same way.
And, you know, I want to say, Lauren, a lot of what led me to the kind of financial freedom I have, and I do feel financially free, which is such a tremendous blessing, as, you know, in life, period, let alone as an artist. A lot of that was getting over myself, tapping into that inner courage and asking questions. You know, so many of us, especially men, think, you know, we're raised to believe that we're supposed to already know it all. And it's like, no, there's this power in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to ask the questions. What are stocks? What are bonds? How do they work? Can you refer me to someone, a good financial manager? Going to people who you see who are living the kind of life that you want and going, hey, how did you get there? You know, can I take you to lunch? I'd like to ask you some questions if you're open to it. You know, not, you know, getting that ego out of the way and letting yourself be vulnerable enough to ask questions. You know, that's what led me here.
And Antoine, Antoine wrote a comment. watching the way you treat your mom is inspiring.
Well,
You
thank you
really
for
love family.
yeah, thank you for saying that, Antoine. Because my mother, I watched my mother, I love my father. I made peace with my father, and I know that alcoholism is a disease, but my father wasn't as available as I needed him to be. My mother she filled in so many gaps. My mother worked. My mother was a housekeeper. She was a maid at a hotel for her entire life, and spent several days a week as a woman's personal assistant cleaning her home, and then would still come home and cook and still love all of her kids, all seven of us, and take care of us. And she always said, she always preached integrity. There's never any excuse to not have the life you want if you're willing to work hard for it. And I remember that. And I feel like we choose our parents. And I know that I chose my mummy wummy, as I call her. And I don't want her feet to touch the ground unless they want to. That is my way to say thank you to the universe, because she gave me and my siblings so many things that money can't buy, that money can't replace.
Mm. And I think that's so important, and to have that foundation of family,
Yeah.
And people who believe in you. I love that.
And for the students, really appreciate your parents, especially those of you who, I couldn't afford any kind of lessons. Thank God for performing arts, the performing arts high school I went to. There was no tuition. It was a public school. You had to audition to get in, but I got incredible training there. But if your parents are footing the bill for your lessons, for anything, do not take that for granted. Not everyone has that benefit, and also don't sit back on that, because, using myself as an example, and I know other kids, other people like me who didn't have training, who are making their lives work anyway, there's no excuse to not make it work, especially if you're getting lessons. So you don't want to lay back on like, well, excuses are just that. Don't let excuses stop you from reaching your full potential.
I love that. And I think one thing we talked about in our last interview is some of the roles you've played have helped you confront some of the things you haven't wanted to confront, or confront the people in your life. And I think it was The Color Purple you talked about, really, really being able to confront.
Make peace with my father.
And make peace with your father. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
I love that.
Absolutely. And I was saying earlier that, we are all healers, but another beautiful thing about being artists is that we get to heal ourselves in the process. When I got to play Mr. in The Color Purple, I remember I got the call about the audition, and I thought, nah, I'm not going to go. I said, no, thank you. I declined the audition. I was coming from the gym. And then the walk from the gym to home, I realized, I kept asking myself, well, why am I saying no automatically? And then I realized, oh my God, I'm afraid. Because I'd gone in for the role before at the original company, and I knew the person who was playing the role of Mr. And I was like, but I said, let me go anyway. And I went, and I didn't even get a call back. And I was just like, oh my God. So I kind of had a flashback of like, well, if I go and don't get a call back again, it'll crush me. And, it was buried back in my mind. Denial is a very powerful thing. So on that walk home, I was able to figure out, oh my God, I'm afraid. I'm not healed. That part of me, that embarrassment, that ego thing that didn't get a call back before. I need to do this. And then I looked at my life, and I realized I was set up perfectly. I'd just been asked to renew my contract as Mufasa. I was already on Broadway. I thought the universe has provided me with the perfect situation to go in and do this audition, and not to book the job, but to really make myself proud of myself, to heal that disappointment, to go, it's not about what they think, it's about how proud I can make myself of myself for doing the work and going in there and doing the best I could. So I suddenly I was able to re-perceive it, like, oh wow, it's not about getting the gig. I get to there's no excuse to not really take the time that it takes to learn this music, to learn these sides, and really bring what Alton can bring to it. So I went in the room with that, not caring what they thought, but going, no, I'm an artist. I'm here to bring my interpretation of this role. And then I left. And then, they wanted to see me again. And I thought, I don't really want to do this role. Job complete. I made myself proud of myself, and I got a call back. Yay, mission accomplished. And they kept pushing, and I went in. I said, okay, Alton, just go. It's another chance to make yourself proud of yourself again. So I went in, and next thing I know, I get the offer, and was like, wow. And I flashed back to, if I had stuck with that no, thank you, decline the audition, I wouldn't have had this whole experience. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to make myself proud of myself. I would have had the opportunity to re-perceive it as an audition to get validation, to take the perception from that to, this is a chance to show my own growth. At that point, I've been playing Mufasa for about 5 years, and I need to know as Alton that I could act. Mufasa is so close to who I am. I needed to know that I could play this hurt, tortured character and bring myself to it. And thinking about my father is what really, really helped me. At that point, I started going to Al-Anon, which is for wives, spouses, children of alcoholics, and had a better understanding of what alcoholics go through. I realized I was able to see and discover that a lot of the things that I felt that I didn't get from my father as a child weren't because of me. They were because of him and his illness, which helped me find compassion and helped me want to know more about him personally. And looking back and going, wow, men of his generation didn't have the outlets that we have. It wasn't cool to go to therapy. It wasn't cool to ask for help, especially as a man, especially as a Black man. And then I went back to Mr. thinking about, Color Purple, this is coming out of, these are folks coming out of slavery. This is like, Mr. is like the first generation, born out of slavery. And, he doesn't get to have the life that he wants. His son, Harpo, does. He gets to choose the wife he wants. He gets to have the career he wants, to open this juke joint, which explains why Mr. was so attracted to Suge, because he was really more like Harpo. Mm-hmm. So thinking about what Black men went through in that time period, think about what men in general, how it's not really promoted. Well, back then to be emotional, even though we're all made of some of the same things, men are allowed to express a small percentage of what we really feel and what we really have to offer. So I was able to use all of that. And my father was gifted that way to help me bring this character to life in my way. It's something that I really love that I didn't quite expect. Women are very attached to The Color Purple. And I remember getting a little pushback with my interpretation when I went in and replaced the original Mr. And I was like, Alton, stick to your guns. This is how you feel. And I got the okay from the stage manager to follow through with it. And when I would get to the stage door and I would have women say to me, I really felt for Mr. Normally, I would just kind of discard him and go, he's the bad guy, he's the villain, but I really kind of understood his pain because I had to find some vulnerability. If you were just like barking the whole time, you're going to be written off as a bad guy. It's like when if you're having a discussion with someone that you're upset with them, once you start raising your voice, they tune out. Yeah. But if you stay calm and really use your words carefully, they hear you. And I did that. I took that risk. I tapped into my courage and played Mr. I played his hurt. I played his pain. I was like, underneath all this barking, there's got to be some kind of something else. It's never just one thing. There's always layers of things. So to have women say to me, oh man, I really felt sorry for Mr. I wonder what would happen to Mr. after the show, after the show finished, was like, that was a reward for going against the grain, for doing all that work, for forgiving my father. It let him off the hook. It let me off the hook. And it healed me. It helped to heal me. We as artists, we heal each other and we heal ourselves if we choose to. It's always a choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
And I love that. We're approaching kind of that 1 hour mark, and that's when Instagram throws us off. So
it's already an hour? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Wow.
I feel like I've been riveted to you and to this conversation, and I know the people responding and the comments are riveted. But on Mondays on your social media, if you don't follow Alton on social media, just go after we get off, follow him on Facebook. He's got a fan page. You can keep up with what he's doing and see gorgeous pictures of his home, his plants, his cooking.
Thank you. Well, you know, it's another thing is artists. I want to remind all my artists, we're not just actors, singers, and dancers. We're also designers. We're also chefs. I mean, there's so many different ways to create.
Yes.
So I just want to remind all of you, there's so many different ways to express yourself. Now's another time to discover some of those things while we have the gift of time.
Well, we have time. Well, and so what I want to ask you is usually once a week on Mondays, you've got Mufasa's musings.
Yes.
Quotes
from my book. Yeah.
Quotes from the book. And it is really a good book.
Thank you.
But what can we learn from Mufasa as we navigate this pandemic? You know, I feel like, you know, getting back to this idea of balancing spirituality, balancing ourselves. You have a question for folks in the book. So I'm going to pose this question for you. How does having a balanced physical, emotion, and spiritual life help you when times are tough? I think that is food for all of us to think about right now. Talk about some things that maybe people can do to find that balance, because this is a tough time for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, having the more that you tap into about yourself, the more you learn about yourself, the more outlets that you provide for yourself. I was just saying now about being creative, like, you know, yeah, you're going to spend time working on that music. You're going to spend time working on that monologue, but there are things outside of the business life. There is a life outside of show business, and it's important to balance that showbiz life with real life. You know, we need to know what's happening in the world and see the news to see how we fit into it. But also, there are things that we can do to nurture ourselves. Self-nurturing is so important, especially in this time. And nurturing may be for you, it'll be different things throughout the day. You know, for me, I wake up some mornings and go, okay, you know what? It's a day I'm going to get up and start doing things. And other times I go, you know, wow, it's a day I need to just kind of like lay here. And the more I let myself be where I am, honestly where I am, the more I flush whatever that is, and then it turns into something else. So maybe, okay, today I'm gonna spend time making myself a really nice lunch. Oh, maybe I'll go up in my garden and I'll go up there and I'll start nipping and pruning and tucking, or just saying thank you to my plants. Maybe I'll call someone. Maybe I'll go to that closet. I have a back room that I kind of throw, like a catch-all room. A couple of days ago, I was looking for something that I hadn't seen. I was like, I know it's in this house somewhere. And I went back there to look, and I thought, this is the day. And I spent the entire afternoon organizing that room, getting big garbage bags, throwing stuff out. And now when I've got to pass that room to get to one of my bathrooms. And before, there was this kind of like, this block of like, oh, that room someday. That's gone. That was a gift I gave myself. Now when I go past that room, it's beautiful, it's clean. I know that there's nothing in there. There's no junk in there, because those things represent, like, all the stuff that's in the back of her closet, it represents mental cloudedness.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you know it's there, you can't pretend that you don't know. So now when I go to that bathroom, there's a clean, open feeling. That is a gift to myself. So there's so many different things that we can do to balance out this time. Self-nurturing, cooking. That's why I've been cooking. You know, I've been taking stuff from my cupboard and going, let me create something. I don't need to follow a recipe book. I know what I like. Let me try this, let me try that. Boom. Share it. A lot of people are using social media for good. They're sharing dance routines they're learning. They're having the courage to sing on social media, and something they've never done before. You know, this is something I'm working up toward. I don't really sing on social media. I'm a singer, but I'm like, somebody challenged me to do something. I'm like, oh, it taps into the shy Alton. But I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to be courageous. It's a way of healing myself, healing any kind of fear I have, and hopefully touching someone else by simply sharing it. This is a small variety of things that we can do for ourselves. The power is within us. The power is not out there. The power is already here. Everything you asked me earlier, how did I get from that kid, the shy kid from the projects to now? That guy was already here. So much of it has really just been getting things out of the way. Fears, other people's expectations, other people's voices, other people's perceptions, and getting to who I am and how do I want to represent myself and share. We all have that opportunity to do that for ourselves.
Well, I love this. This is probably my favorite way to spend an afternoon. I could spend every afternoon with you. So I want to wish
Thank you, Lauren.
I want to wish you a happy birthday because
Yes,
I know it's your birthday.
Friday. Aries.
So happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
And I hope when the next book comes out, you'll come back and
absolutely
talk
I
to
would
me
love
again. I'd love to reconnect, and we got to get you back to North Carolina to sing and to do these master classes.
I'm looking forward to doing more master classes there. We're trying to work on some kind of a benefit concert. It's going to happen. So I'll just say it's going to happen. We don't know when, and there's no if. It's about when, and it will.
Well, I will be there when it happens because I cannot wait. And thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Time.
Thank you for inviting me, Lauren. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in and contributed all the messages. Thank you, Justin. Happy early birthday. Thank you all. And God, universe, bless all of us.